Study with Steph, cause she's the best. She's gonna help you get your CTS, yeah.
Ain't nothing can keep me down.
Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of Study with Steph. I thought it right to just go ahead and jumpstart into season 2 with two of my favorite people in the industry. This is Chuck Espinoza and Jeremy Caldera. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going great.
I figured I would just start season 2 by talking about the fact that I did fail the CTS test on my first try and just kind of talking about the lessons that I've learned from that and what I'm trying to do differently this time around in studying. And so I also had you guys on because you taught the CTS prep class that I took. So I first wanted to just kind of talk about like how I actually really did think the class was helpful because I think that one, it was really useful to be able to just have people there who were dedicated to like answering all the questions that I had. Because I think that like as I was studying by myself, I would like have a question, but like not necessarily have anyone like right there to be like, wait, hey, can you explain this to me really fast? But yeah, I wanted to talk just a little bit about like what the class might be able to give that like studying solo might not be able to.
So there's a couple things. One of the things of studying solo is you actually don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, right? So in class, I'm sure there was a bunch of things that came at you that you were like, I have never even thought or heard or had an inkling about this before.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things is there's a lot of things that go on in the AV industry. And again, CTS covers everything. So there's a lot of that. And, you know, when you're studying solo, you look something up and you look at it and you're like, all right, I kind of have an idea of that. I have an idea of this. And this is the second part of, so I want to ask you a question real quick, Steph.
Okay.
Before you started at Rave, how much AV did you do?
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, how much time did I
Anything.
spend with an AV rec? None.
How much time in the AV industry did you
Yeah,
spend?
it's how much experience did you have at all, right? In AV.
None. Zero.
Okay. So this kind of shows you that the exam is kind of doing what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have knowledge of the content, and really not just I've seen it a couple times, but it's ingrained. If you don't have a wide, broad spectrum view of the industry and know a little bit about everything, it's very difficult to pass this exam.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And there are people who have been in the AV industry for 5-6 years who still just have a very narrow view. Like I've been a sound engineer for the last 5 years, but you don't know about video or control or
Right.
the project process, you know, from
Exactly.
soup to nuts. So unless you know about that broad spectrum of AV topics, it's very difficult to pass. And that's kind of what the exam is made for. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't know the stuff, you're not going to pass the exam. And a lot of people that took it before, you know, before it was ANSI, it was an open book,
Mhm.
open neighbor. You did it by yourself. You had a 6-pack, whatever, and you just looked up the answers. Well, you can't do that anymore.
No.
And so
No. It's like heavily proctored.
yeah.
now.
And so the exam actually has a lot more teeth to it. Because when you get your CTS, like you passed a standardized test, you know the 10,000-foot view of the industry
Right.
and all the things that go along with that. Now, you take the class. Now, there's a couple things about CTS prep. First of all, it's not truly a prep class. A true prep class is a class that you've had the information and the knowledge before. We're just making sure that that's all solidified. A lot of these topics and concepts we have not taught before. If you took the essentials, and you look at the exam guide, the first like 12 chapters covers the essentials. The
Yes.
chapters 13 to 24 is what's in CTS prep. So this is an educational class as well as prepping you. Now, we did talk about test taking techniques and things like that to prep you for the exam. And we went through some of the questions like how would this question be phrased? What would be the best answer type scenario? But there's still a lot of new information that people don't have. So,
Right.
having that, you know, it's not just make sure you know this, make sure you know that. It's like, hey, here's discus, and we're going to go over all this math, and you've never seen it before. Like,
Right.
oh,
Or you could be like me, who's just terrible at math in general, right?
I am, but I actually surprised myself on the test because the math questions were like the easiest for me.
Right.
It was like the questions where it was like not a clear way to get to the answer that I had a hard time being like, okay, like how would an AV person answer this?
Yeah.
And I'm surprised sometimes how much people don't realize how much math there is, right?
Yeah.
Or how much goes into a lot of what we talk about with discus and with everything else, right? And then just in general, like he mentioned, the whole idea of exam taking or exam, how are the questions phrased? How are, like that demystifying of the exam itself, right? I think a lot of people just get into their own heads about test taking in general, right? Because how long has it been since many people have taken a standardized test? I mean, this
Like
is the norm for
years.
most, I mean, you think about doctors and lawyers and all these other people who go to school for who knows how many years, beyond high school, but that kind of standardized testing is, kind of a norm for a lot of those professional industries where it really hasn't been for us. So a lot of the people in general, to throw a big net out there across the generalization, right? A lot of the people in our industry aren't used to that, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not used to that type of standardized testing. So, in our class, we get a lot of compliments on just that little bit of time we take to focus on, making the test less scary, right? So
agreed. And like I do think that taking the class made my score higher. Like I don't think I would have done as well without it because I did like get quite close. I think I had like a 329 and you need a 350 to pass. So like that was the difference of a few questions, I think.
One or two questions maybe, right?
Yeah.
How they were.
So I honestly think it was because I second guessed myself on a few of the answers. So not passing was probably like a lot of just me clamming up even when I should have known the answer. The one thing I do wish about the test though is I wish it would tell you the answers you got wrong at the end.
So here's the thing is, even when we recommend for study, I tell people take the practice tests one time, because when you go back and you say, okay, I got this answer wrong, you concentrate on that answer, right? Now, here's the whole purpose of that test is what we want to do is make sure that you can think for yourself and develop a solution, because there are several things we run into over and over, and that's what math is for. But there are a lot of things that come up new and they give you a curveball. Life throws you a curveball. How are you going to hit it?
Right.
And if you know how to put these concepts and get these concepts together and create a solution, that's the whole goal. Because in your job, you're not just answering the same question every time. There's new stuff that comes together.
Right.
And when you go back to take that again, you're not necessarily going to get that question, right? Because there's a bank of questions.
I know, that's true.
You'll get the same concept, but not the same question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what happened was like I kind of took note in my brain of like all of the like subjects that it could be that I was like having a hard time on. A lot of it was like the project management stuff, because I was like, I've never managed an AV project before, so I don't know what the next step is here. So that's like definitely something that I like just kind of stored away to spend a little more time studying like this time around. But yeah, like what else do you recommend for someone like taking it again?
So there's based on what you're telling me. So a lot of people, they don't pass for different reasons. For the project management stuff, I can recommend a book for you to read. And some of the questions, you're probably going to read through it and be like, holy crap, that's that question. It's right there in black and white. When the test is created, all the questions have to be referenced somewhere. Like it can't just be like, I got this from my brain and I put it down and that's what I think. The item writers have to reference something. So there is a book or a publication or something that they reference to have that correct answer.
And not something obscure. It's typically something that's pretty common within the industry.
Right. Because it has to be like, I remember someone asking me like, hey, like English is my second language. Are there really confusingly worded questions on there? And I said, no, because they're not made to be confusing. They're made to be like the answers there. They're not trying to confuse you. They're just trying to like make sure that you know the stuff.
Yeah. So based on when somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I didn't pass, I ask them, well, first off, I ask to see their score sheet. I can tell a lot about their score sheet. I can recommend a couple publications. that they go out and get, or links to certain things. I can recommend videos. Avixa has a slew of videos online, tons that are on YouTube that are free. And, just making sure that they keep up the non-technical or the technical stuff, but that non-technical stuff that you didn't do so well on, we can concentrate on that.
Okay.
And that just kind of shows you, okay, it's not just CTS, certified technical specialist, but it's the CTS general. So it's not just how to build a rack, how to make connectors. There's project management. There's things about, management in general, because that has to do with things in the AV industry. There's design stuff, but there's also how to do, what is the purpose of a daily report. So it truly is a general, across the board AV industry test. It's not just like we're concentrating on dollars or we're concentrating on designers. And really that it speaks volume. Like 100%. I really wish the outcome was different for you. I wish you would have.
Yeah, I do too. That would have been.
I mean, we actually waited for you and we cried with you when you got out.
We teared up a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I know you did. Yeah. And I did too. Because I was like, if y'all are crying, I'm going to start crying. I got to go.
I really wish that when you came out, it would have been tears of joy and we would have celebrated. But I mean, this kind of shows you that the test is not, it's not a pay for play. You can't just pay some money and go in and pass. You have to have some AV experience and you have to have some AV knowledge. And it's more than, if you walk into the industry and take a seat, like, I don't know anything about AV, I'm going to take this class and pass a test. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Not for everybody. No, some people are good test takers. They know how to take, they're very, very good at it. They can take tests that they have no knowledge of and pass. Some people aren't. And the best way, I open the class with this, the best way to pass the exam is knowing the information that you're going to be tested on. That's the very first thing I say.
Yep.
If you don't know that information, and when I mean know the information, not just you've been exposed to it once or twice, but it's actually like you have it available to you at all points in time. If you don't know that information, you're not going to do well.
Right.
So being in the industry and looking at the industry from a general perspective, that's going to help out more than a 3-day course.
Yeah.
The 3-day course is going to fill in the gaps and make sure you know everything. But just having that knowledge ingrained in you is going to be the thing that does it more. And I'm sure since you've done that, you've looked at things a little different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Where I've been like, I think I just kept the questions in my brain as soon as I left. I was like, I need to look this up. I need to know if I was right on these. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. And you were saying you can tell a lot about someone's score. What do you mean by that? If they got a really low score, that means they need to spend a lot more time just developing the essentials.
So I get a lot of people that message me, DM me and say, hey, I didn't do so well on the test. I got to take it again. The first thing I do is say, let me see your sheet. The 3 domains, out of the 3 domains, how did you do? And I can look at how well they did on the domains and kind of figure out what subjects. And it's just because I do this all the time and I've talked to people and based on, okay, this says this. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? Let me ask you a couple questions. I kind of see patterns and trends. So when I look at their score, I could say, okay, I'm looking at this. All right, here you didn't do so well. Let's talk about your, you got math on lockdown. I could tell that. Let's look at how you answered questions on the project process. And they're like, yeah, I didn't do too well on that.
Yeah.
So just being able to look at somebody's score on how they did and the percentages, I could put the percentages together and figure out, okay, we need to concentrate on this area.
Okay.
And that's where the knowledge gap is. And they'd say, yeah, I don't have too good an idea about that thing or the vocabulary. And then we can go from there.
Yeah. I think I need to look at my sheet again, but I definitely remember it was the project process that really stumped me, and a little bit of the networking stuff as well, just because that just does not come naturally to me at all. All of the layers, I don't really know anything about that. That's not my business. So I definitely need to spend a little more time on that this time around. Would you recommend for someone taking it again to retake the class, or no, that's not helpful?
Well, you could, depending on what you've studied. So again, for a prep course to be truly a prep course, you have to have the knowledge base, and then we go over the knowledge. And so a lot of the times when I take a prep course, like when I took my PMP prep course, I sat there most of the time like this, because they're going over information that I already had and that I had on lockdown. Every now and then I would, oh, wait, I don't know that. Let me take notes. Glad I took this course, because that was the little gap that meant the difference between me being a PMP and not.
Right.
So I would say this is a perfect example of, you didn't have a lot of AV knowledge or experience. You took the course. Some things were new, some things you just digested, maybe some things you missed. You take the exam, didn't do so well. Then you're on the journey to, I'm going to pass this. Now you're looking at things a little bit different. I bet if you came back and took the course again, you would sit there for a majority of the course like this. But every now and then we're going to talk about, like, here's why you structure your logic network diagram with your work breakdown structure task. And you're like, okay, this is the part I missed.
Yeah, this is what did not stick the first time around.
So it might be really interesting for you to go through that again, and like during the class, just kind of take notes. Hey, we're going over this again. I remember this. I had this.
Good to get some general refreshers.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a really good experiment, actually.
Yeah, and that would be an interesting experiment, like just to be able to give that back to Avixa and say, like, okay, like, here's what I've learned. Here's what I would recommend to other people like me. I know I am not the first person who's like in more of the editorial journalism realm trying to pass this thing. I'm not going to be the last, but I feel like it would at least like be a useful frame of reference for someone else who's coming in. So I'm going back, I'm like starting to study again and kind of like rework those muscles in my brain. What do y'all think the best way to study is, like, at this point?
So a couple things. Go through your topics, and if you see a topic and you think, I like this topic, don't study it.
Okay.
You already have it.
Okay.
Find either a study buddy or a coach. I don't know if you know, the Avixa Women's Group is actually putting together study groups. I'm working with them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm working with them to develop a lesson plan right now, and they're going to announce it for a study group. They're going to start in January, and they're going to do, I believe, twice a month up to the show, with the whole outline geared to get people ready to take their exam at the show.
Cool.
They're planning on bringing in different instructors, but studying with a partner or with a buddy seriously is the best way, because your partner's going to go, okay, let's study audio gain. And you're going to be like, oh, scared. I don't know anything about audio gain. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's the thing you need, or whatever topic,
Okay.
So studying with a buddy. Now I tell this, I say this a lot, and it usually bites me in the leg. Don't be afraid to reach out to the instructors.
Okay.
Especially me. This is my job. I get paid to do this. Don't make me your last resort. Make me your first option. If you have a question, shoot me an email. And this goes for anybody in the audience that's studying for your CTS. I answer questions all day. I get done with teaching, and I'm on the computer answering emails for like an hour after I get done. Ask. We are here. Jeremy's here. The CTS professionals group. All the instructors are there.
Join the Facebook group too.
Yeah, the Facebook CTS professionals group.
There's a Facebook group.
There's a Facebook CTS.
Nobody told me nothing about that.
Oh my God. So all of our adjunct faculty are on this group, and older adjunct faculty who haven't taught in a while, they're still on this. Like Bill Natras is on here. Jeremy's on here. Justin Watts, Hope Roth, Krista Bender, Joe Cornwall, Max Kopshow, all the instructors that teach. And if you have a question, all you have to do is ask, and you have like 30 instructors that are waiting to help you. Seriously, everybody's waiting to help you.
Okay.
Even if you're at the point where you say, I've studied everything, I don't know what to do. I get on there.
I don't know what to do.
Like, I get on there and say, okay, tell me about this topic. And I get DMs with people for hours. Like, tell me about how you calculate this kind of impedance. And they're like, oh, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole.
Let's run. Okay.
Study
Sounds
with a
good.
buddy.
Yeah. Do you recommend the buddy be someone like more knowledgeable than me or less knowledgeable than me or someone like kind of in my same ballpark?
Both.
Okay.
Less knowledgeable than you. Seriously, the emperor has new clothes every now and then, right?
That's true.
Somebody's going to say, what's about this networking thing? And you're going to be like, crap, I don't know that.
I don't know that. Yeah.
You, but I don't know that. Somebody on your same level, you're going to go back and
forth. And either way, you're going to have different strengths and weaknesses, right? In different categories and domains. So at the very least, where you're struggling, they might, help you and vice versa, right?
That's true. I actually, when I was at study hall before taking my test at Infocom 2021, I remember like someone sitting there and being like, can someone help me go through this equation? And I was like, wait, I know that equation. I can come over and help you. And that was actually really helpful because it like, it gave me the chance to like write it out and like go through an entire problem as well.
I mean, that applies even throughout your career, right? I mean, you'll know, you took Chuck and I's class, right? There's things that I don't do on a regular basis that I would defer to Chuck to teach those things. Right. And then I would sit back and take notes again. Right. Because it's been so long since I've touched X, Y, or Z topic. Right. We both do the same thing. Other professionals do the same thing, because, especially like us, we get into the routine of our day-to-day job. And sometimes that's really hard to, keep up on every single thing that's
on
out
every
there,
single
right?
thing. Yeah. That's very daunting too. Like, you can't expect everyone to know like every single thing.
Yeah, it is very difficult to, especially like Jeremy's saying, stuff like equations. You don't use those equations every day, and they get. No. I was talking with Tom Kerr last week. We were at Almo, and we were talking about. I did an interview for the Haas effect, and it took me a second. Like, I haven't used the calculation for transferring the speed of sound to a given temperature. There is an equation for that.
Yeah.
I haven't used that since I've been in live sound. I used to use it all the time. And I'm like, was that 45.09 or 49.05? I can't remember what that variable was. And I just haven't used that in a long time. So if you don't use it, it's like a different language. If you don't use it, it takes you a while to get back into it. So, and helping other people, if somebody doesn't know something and you know it, I'll tell you, the best way to get rock solid on a topic is to teach it.
That's true.
So when you help somebody else, it really reinforces that knowledge in your brain. And you think about it from a different perspective sometimes. Like, I never thought about this question. Okay, I got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really does reinforce that. So, helping somebody who's not as knowledgeable as you, that might be.
That's part of the reason why I love teaching, right?
That's true.
Right.
Seeing the light bulb go off in someone's head, like when they're like so confused, like that's a good feeling. And for everyone involved.
In the class that you took, stand in our shoes on the stage when we're looking out at 75 people, we get the pleasure of seeing that happen consistently throughout the day with every single person. Every person at some point has that light bulb go off. Yeah. And that's what makes the teaching worthwhile, right? That's what makes it fun.
I'll tell you, that's like my crack. That's the whole reason I do this. Seriously, like that's dopamine. The whole reason I do this job. Like, I love to walk into the class and just light bulbs coming on. And, if someone's not getting it, like it's, and I explain it a different way and it pops on, it's just the most amazing feeling. And you walk in, people walk in, their light bulbs are dim. And when they walk out of class at the end of the 3 days, their light bulbs are
like
bright.
We're great. Yeah. I think that was me, like walking out of class being the most worried about like Ohm's law. And then like leaving class being like, am I a physics expert? Like Ohm's law is no problem.
Awesome. Yeah. That's it. That's why I do it. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I think that was like about all the questions I had for you, and this was really helpful. I'm sure I'll be reaching back out as I like continue studying and like have a lot more questions. But thank you. I have a lot of faith that I'm going to pass this time around.
Cool. So
Think positive. You got it.
Yeah. Positive thinking. I've got it. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Study with Steph, 'cause she's the best. She's gonna